I like there was, oh yeah, nice. There was a merge conflict yesterday, but I sorted it out, so everything's been good since then. So yeah, it's been fun.
Cool. Who wants to go next? Okay, wait, Danny, are you talking? Because if you are, I can't hear you. Not yet.
Not yet.
Apparently, I was trying to use my external mic. How about now?
It's really good.
It was muted. Okay. So, okay, and I can see it now. We're good. So first of all, Sam, thank you for jumping in and handling those merge conflicts, since we had a significant amount due to the restructuring that Tatiana and I did. So I just wanted to shout you out for that, because that was rad, and thank you, because that could have been a big headache last night. But I feel good. I feel like Tatiana and I, our user story itself, we had a good idea of what we needed to do. And then at the beginning of the week, I proposed we change the way that our data was structured within Firestore. So we kind of had to address how we wanted to do that. Because I was thinking in terms of like scalability, like, yes, we're making this app for ourselves right now, but thinking in terms of like, as an engineering team, we would not want to query the database for every single item that everyone has ever submitted to find those user tokens. So we tackled that this week, and I feel like super proud of Tatiana and I for figuring out how that works in this NoSQL database. It was awesome.
Okay.
I guess I'll go.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. I can only echo everything Danny just said. Our user story in and of itself wasn't terribly complicated, and all of the work that we did may not be reflected in like the way the app looks, because most of the work was done on the back end with restructuring the data structure, and that was just, I learned a lot about Firestore by doing that, and I'm really happy that Danny had that idea, because that allowed me to learn so much more and understand how it works. But yeah, it was great, and it was really great working with Danny as well, because we ran into a few little snags just trying to figure out how to get the information that we need from the database once we restructured. Once we restructured everything, but we worked through that and we got it done.
I guess I'm the last one. First time working with Sam this week. I had a lot of fun. He helped out a lot when I had questions. Even like last minute, I'll like DM him. It's like, hey, you have a second? I got a question. And he was like always up for, just meeting up with me. So that was like really cool. And I really got to give props to Tatiana and Danny for like doing that heavy lifting this week. They just went above and beyond with trying to reformat that, and I know we had that discussion and we're like, yeah, that sounds cool. Not realizing, how humongous of a task it was. And then Sam coming in and, just merging and fixing all that merge conflict. So I'm very proud of the team that I'm in.
This is awesome. Thank you guys so much. I feel like we get a lot, it feels like we get a lot out of that, just the feedback and stuff. So who wants to demo first what they worked on this week?
I can demo our user story, and then as we have already said that we did our user story and also restructure the database. So if Danny wants to jump in and talk a little bit about that, because she really did a lot of heavy lifting, figuring out how exactly to set things up.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because I'm really curious too. Like, I really want to see what the thought process is and what you ended up with, because that sounds like, I don't know, I'm a nerd. It sounds exciting.
It was, yeah. I guess let me start. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm actually, I'm having internet problems. I'm just going to be right back, but you guys go right ahead. I'm going to be right back. Sorry.
Sure. I guess I'll start with our user story and get through that quick and just show you how the app works. And then we can dive deeper into the database. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so here's our user story and the acceptance criteria. So the general idea here was that we wanted users to be able to join an existing shopping list by entering a user token. Once the user enters a token, it gets saved into their local storage, and they effectively have owner rights to an existing shopping list. If the token does not exist in the database, the user should get an alert telling them so, and then they should be able to try again if they need to. So here is our app right now. This is just, I'll refresh. This is just our homepage right now. We didn't add too much style because I understand that that's going to come later in the process. So our entry field for the existing token is at the top. And let me open up a console so that you can see what's going on. So let's say I want to join an existing shopping list. I'm going to go to our database and I'm just going to copy paste like a random, I already have selected something, but like a random user token, and I'll paste it into our entry field. Let me just making sure that there are no, yeah, okay, everything's fine. I'm going to hit submit. And as soon as I hit submit, I see the list of items that is already saved to the database associated with this user token. And I will check local storage, and I can see that I have the same user token saved in my local storage. So I now have owner privileges to this shopping list, and I can add items to it. Let me clear my local storage real quick. And let me just go back to the home page of the app. So now I'm going to enter a random token that I know doesn't exist. I'm just going to say test. And I know it doesn't exist because we need 3 words. So I hit submit, and there's an alert that comes up. It says the token not found, please try again or create a new list. So then user is able to go back and either create a list or try again with the token. In terms of the user story, this is this satisfied the criteria. And I can show you the code as well quick, because there was one more ask. There was an ask that we used a label field to make sure that our form is accessible. And so we just, when we put the form together, here we go. We made sure that to use the label field. As part of our user story, we had to create a new component, home.js, and we talked with the team about that to make sure that they were okay with us creating this brand new component here. So let me answer any questions right now about the user story before we jump into the database.
I have a couple questions, and maybe it's not quite related to the user story, but there's just like a couple things I noticed. When you had to manually trim the spaces when you entered that token, you could probably easily just do that as part of validation. It's just to trim the spaces, and that would be really slick, save you a little time. Did you guys come across any, because I saw that thing about accessibility, did you do any research on accessibility or any like best practices, or we could talk about that at some point?
Yeah, because I was not familiar with the label tag, so I had to look into what it was and what was needed for it. And so we have discovered and understood that screen reading software will find it easier to read this entry field if the label tag is used, as opposed to a form tag, for example. And there were some rules for using the label tags, and meaning that it has to be connected with the form entry field. So we ensure that we use the same IDs. For example, for the label tag, we use a HTML4 token, and we use the same ID, corresponding ID in the input field to make sure that this can be read.
That's really cool, because I feel like accessibility, I don't know, like you read dev Twitter, I mean, everyone really cares about accessibility. Like anything we can do to just make the site more readable or more usable just opens up and we get more users, right? So
yeah, and it makes sense because you want to make sure the internet is for everybody, right? And that everybody can use it and everything. And it's really so much easier to just think about this up front than go back later and try to redo every form field, everything that needs to be redone.
That's absolutely true. And I feel like it's also one of those tech debt things that's really hard to like get time for if it is tech debt. Because there's so many there's actual broken things. And to a lot of people, when we don't test for accessibility, I mean, that's definitely something to look into. And I feel like I should like personally make that a goal. Cool.
I will say
100%.
we do have a learning module coming up in a couple of weeks on accessibility. So we will be talking about it
timing
at length pretty soon. However, you always want to be thinking about it. So good stuff. All right.
Thanks.
Okay,
I'll stop.
Okay.
And thank you so much for for mentioning the validations. We haven't put anything in yet, but it's something that we had briefly talked about as a team that will need that eventually. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Let me hand it off to Danny and she can explain what we did with the database.
Perfect. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So I'm just going to jump a little bit into Firestore and talk about what at least my thought process was in proposing this change. So for me, when I was looking at our initial list of items, we had an individual item listed here under groceries. And then this item would have all of the details. So it had a user token assigned, a unique ID, the frequency, the item name. And in terms of querying a database, I started thinking about if we have 10 users, it's not going to be super expensive to run a query through every single item and pull the ones that have a user token that matches. But if we kind of extrapolate this out and we say we have 1,000 users now, and I'm looking for, everyone has 20 items on their list, and now we're at 20,000 items that we're querying for individual user tokens on every single item. I was like, this is about to get really expensive. It's going to take longer. It's going to be a bit of a burden. So I wanted to look at a way to use our database to kind of help us out in this regard, because I think using like something like this that's NoSQL allows you to do some really cool nesting. So what we came up with was within our groceries list, we actually list the user token within these documents here. So it is the unique ID. We can query based on that value.
Danny, are you expecting to be sharing? Because the way you said this made me think that
it's not sharing. Okay, let's try now.
This is way better. Thank you.
Here we go. Okay, so yeah, so originally within the groceries list here, each of these was an individual item. So now I can actually talk about that. So what we ended up doing here, so this is our user token, this Anger, Lucia, and CR. We discovered with Firestore that you have to have an item within each document. If you don't have any item in the document, it's just going to be non-queryable because it's empty. It doesn't really exist. It exists virtually. So we decided to create a user token field here that's associated directly with this document. And within that, we were able to nest our items collection. And this items collection now will contain all of the items that the user has put. So for instance, this one's going to be a lot more involved. So we have our user token saved and our whole list of items, which contains all of the details. We did discover that it's harder to set up the initial queries this way because you are nesting information much more aggressively than if you're just putting one call of, okay, here's all the information for this one item. But now that we have it set up, I think it's pretty seamless to be able to pull just the items associated with individual user tokens, and hopefully a little bit less expensive as a call. I guess I can jump into the code a little bit and just kind of show what that looks like. So within our grocery container, let me just pull this up here. So I have to find where we had all of our information. So this was saving user token. Sorry, I apparently didn't prepare. I was in the home, that's why. Okay, so within our grocery container.js, let me close out this other one. I don't need this second slide. Oh, okay. Or I'm going to do that instead. Close it. How did I close it in VS Code? I don't remember. That way. Okay. So we had to define our reference value a little bit differently and actually query further into the database in order to set this up. So we had to query Firestore, pull our collection of groceries, and then actually pull individual documents based on their token. From there, we queried the individual collection within that document. So it got a little bit hairy at first, trying to figure out what all we needed to do there. But I think our solution came to a pretty good place. But most of it was just in this initial setup of how do we get the information where it needs to go so it's all nesting correctly. Does that cover everything? Does anyone have questions on either the thought process or like the solution we came to?
Yeah, so I guess that's another thing I'm thinking about, like cool resources that you found online that kind of helped you. Like, how did this come up? You were just like conceptualizing how the data was going to work, and then it naturally just.
So I was conceptualizing how the data was going to work and kind of trying to draw on my experience with like MongoDB and thinking about how you can kind of nest information within a little bit more seamlessly than doing like, I don't know, a SQL database where you have like those different tables that are communicating across each other. Right. So I was like, if this functionality exists, can we utilize it?
That's badass.
And I found
I love it.
Firestore is kind of hard to actually learn the documentation.
Oh, okay.
I had a hard time like finding things, but I think Tatiana had a great eye for being able to find the individual like query structure we needed. And then it was kind of just playing around with, okay, can we continue to like stringify what we're doing here? Can we add another section, and will it push to that next like nested object or not? So yeah.
Cool. I think it looks great. Does anyone else have any questions before we move on? Because I think we should get the other team in here. This is really cool.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop sharing then.
Really great job on this, and way to like apply so much forward thinking about what the future of the app would look like if it continued to grow. That's very professional thinking, and
yes,
it's very advanced, and I love to hear it.
Thank you.
All right. Yolanda and Sam, who's going to take it away?
We didn't really talk about how we wanted to present this beforehand, but Yolanda, do you want to maybe present it, and then I can kind of explain certain aspects of the code and the merge that we did, or do you want me to go ahead and present it?
I'm down either or. I could just show really quick how it works, and then you could deep dive into the code of it.
Yeah,
give
sure.
me a second. Let's see. All right. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. All right, cool. Sorry, I should have tested this out prior. I had a busy morning, so I didn't get the chance to kind of make sure it works, but let me go to our story. So Sam and we had to work on making sure there's no duplicate items in our, if the user inputs an item that's already existed in the database, it gives us, or gives the user a kind of like an error message saying that the item has existed. So this is, if you can let me zoom in a little bit. So this is our the criteria. So we have to show an error message if the users try to submit a new item that has the exact same name as existing item, and show an error message if the user try to submit a new item that has the same name, and the user's original input should be what gets saved in the database. So if I set this up correctly, let me see, hold on. Give me a second. I don't remember which one I used. Wine rock. So this one, let's see if there's anything in here. So oranges. All right. So since we have grapefruit, oat milk, oranges, and salmon, if I pick oat milk, it should give me a warning that it's already in the database. And it did not. Sorry. Well then, give me a second. Am I in the right batch? What's up?
Are we sorry. Oh, is this on are we using the main branch right now?
I didn't have the chance to get the main branch. So this is supposed to be our branch, which it's, oh, sorry, I need to quit first. Which is not in our branch. Sorry, you guys.
Oh, no,
That's
it's all
okay.
good.
You can just do a quick poll if you want to. We don't mind.
This
is all, you get to practice all that Git stuff on the fly.
I mean, I can,
Yeah.
hold on. So I know there's a hard stop on an hour, so I don't want to mess with it too much.
Oh, that's just a hard stop for me. I mean, you guys can continue if you need to. That's just,
okay.
I have an appointment.
Gotcha. Sorry. I get so nervous when I'm like on the spot and I tend to freeze.
We can walk you through this. So is the latest code in main?
Yes, it is.
Should be. I think
So
that's
then,
what Sam said.
So that you can pull main into your branch.
So as
or
like
I
that?
would do origin main because
origin.
yeah, because otherwise you will just have like the main that's on your branch, like that you've already pulled down, unless you do a git fetch. So do a git fetch and a git pull, but this is fine. Yeah, do that. See what happens. It looks like you have to commit your changes for grocery card first, whatever you've done recently.
I don't remember what I've done. Can I do
git,
if I remember, can I do git stash if I remember correctly?
You could do git stash. You could also do git diff and just see what you've done. DIFF is the code. It looks like you commented out.
Oh, Sam and I were messing with the date because I had an error when I was what were we doing? Was testing out the other team's branch, and he explained to me why there was an error because of the date
format
structure. Yeah, so we comment that out. I don't want to commit that though. So
I mean, you can either do like a git reset hard head that we talked about last week if you just want to get rid of it.
Okay.
Or you can actually do, oh wait, one other thing you could actually do is git check out the name of the file, and it will check it out and overwrite it.
So git check out.
Guys, if helpful, if we want to continue with git, let's go ahead. But if helpful, the site is live. So if we want to just use that for a demo, right?
Oh,
that's a good idea.
It was merged into main and the site is live. I just pasted it into the chat. So
all right, give me
whatever works.
Whichever works.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like that would probably be the easiest. I don't mind walking through this, but yeah, if we should continue, this might save a lot of time.
Okay, then I will go with the live site just for time wise, and then April, I probably will reach out to you.
Yeah, no worries.
Later on.
No, absolutely not. That's no problem.
So the site is live, and why can't I move your guys's beautiful faces? Hold on. There. I'm gonna put on my other screen. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if this is live, then I need to know. I have to put in a token again, correct? So let's see. So if I submit that, okay, cool. So we have here grapefruit, oat milk, oranges, and then oat milk again. So if
capitalization, maybe that's why they're different too. So they're not exactly the same because oat milk.
I thought sorry, I know I'm looking away. I was looking at,
no,
I know
fine.
Sam and I worked on that because we did two lowercase method to work on that. So
yeah, that should have worked.
It could be, maybe it was something added to the database before you did it. That's also another option.
Yeah, we could try just deleting one of those in the database just to clean it up a bit.
Yeah, let me try something again. Then let's try oranges. Let's see if it's. Oranges, let's say I need it kind of soon, and then I submit. Item already
There you
exists.
go.
So that worked.
Yeah.
But then why did our oat milk didn't work? Oat milk, and that was the spelling. That's already exist, which that's what we wanted. Now I'm very
How
curious.
about you try like lowercase, but with like a capital K or something? Yeah, like
It's kind of, oh, I know it's
Yeah.
sorry, that was terrible. Okay. And then so as you can see, yep, capital M, capital K, it should not work. There you go. So
Okay,
item
cool.
already
Awesome.
exists. So I'm not quite sure why my
I'm thinking
So-
that maybe it was from before, like maybe it was added.
So
And
yeah,
then
that was
before-
added when you were on our branch, Yolanda. So it didn't go through those validations. It added to the database using the data structure, but it
Yeah,
didn't
because
check for the duplicate items. So you're good.
That's right, because it was your guys' branch. Thank you.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson.
I'm sorry, you guys. I could have sworn right before the meeting I thought I went to my branch, I mean Sam's and my branch, but apparently I did not do it. So going back into our story, that's what we worked on. And if we added something new like water, it'll tell us it's successfully added to our list. And I can't think of anything else. I think that covers all of our criteria. Let's see.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and then
Yeah,
punctuation.
awesome.
Sorry. One last minute. If we did, was there any punctuation? Let me get one. No. And we took in consider punctuation. Let's see. It should. I don't
You
know
do
if
like oat milk exclamation point or something.
that we could do. So like that. It didn't work.
Well, that's
That
you're
not
back
work?
on localhost.
I'm on the wrong one. I'm truly sorry, you guys. I am on
You
the
remember
wrong
how
one.
last week
all
I was
good.
talking about
You're
record
doing good,
your
Yolanda.
demos?
You don't need to worry. You're doing good.
It's fine. It's honestly, it's fine. It's just like a good thing to practice because this always
Right.
happens. This is a really realistic version of what will happen if you don't pre-record your demos at work.
Also, you're demoing the difference in behavior. That is what it was doing. And now you
Okay.
showed us what it is doing.
That's true. That's a great way to spin it. You're like, and that was a previous, but look at now. So
Very true. Thank you, you guys. And then when I did the exclamation, because of the punctuation or exclamation, it says
Yes.
item already exists and it gave us an error message. All right,
Right.
I am done.
it's stressful. Okay. Good job. That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else on demos before we move on to the learning module, which Lyle's gonna take?
I don't know if you guys wanted me to show you guys anything in the code or anything like that. You guys all have access to it. Is there anything, should I just quickly go over it or should we just move to the module? What do you guys think?
It's up to you guys if you'd like it. And we could always do that as a sidebar later.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Was there anything exciting or interesting you wanted to share? Because that
actually, yeah, maybe I do. Just
Okay,
with
yeah,
the merge,
let's
I'll
do
do
it.
like a quick 2 minutes on what I did there real quick.
no worries. That'll give Lyle a chance to get ready for his. Lyle, put the scissors down. You're making me nervous.
Man, let me just pull. Sorry, I'm like on my hotspot right now because the building I'm in does not have.
Sometimes it might be nice if you just turn your video off. It'll save a little bit on bandwidth.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, give me 1 second, then I'll do that. Stop video. Perfect. Okay, cool. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. So basically this portion, this is the actual main branch right here that I merged into and went ahead and adjusted a couple of things just so that it all worked together. Essentially, initially we had all of our logic within the submit handler, but I decided to actually put it out into a function in itself and return a true or false statement, and then use that in a different conditional. But basically what we did was we utilized the database structure that Danny and Tatiana developed, and we were able to get all of the items based on the token that was included in local storage. And we would then get those items, and we did our refactor conversion using the to lowercase method, and then also using the replace method with some rejects, which I'm not too familiar with. So we did some research on that, but ultimately found this formula here to take out all of the punctuation, basically only use actual letters. And that was for the items in the database. And then we also did the same formula for the actual input that the user put in for the item name. And then we compared those two by using items.includes method and the user input. And basically from that, we got a true or false statement, true or false. And from that, we utilized that return value in this if statement here. And because it was a promise, I had to use this function that I built, and next to it, a then statement returning the value from that promise, and then bringing that promise down into this conditional. So it would check if local storage exists and it is not a duplicate, then it would run all the code that Danny and Tatiana developed, and it would push that item in to the database and then give us a message saying successfully added, and then clear our inputs. Else, it would alert that the item already existed. So that was basically it. Any questions or need any clarification on anything?
I put one thing in the sidebar. So as you guys were going through the trim or the data functions with item name, so item name dot lowercase, you could also just add dot trim to that as well, and that will take care of the problem that you are having with like having to like make sure there's no spaces in the entry. And it's as simple as that. And I added the info from Mozilla, but in the regex, I swear I have to look it up every single time. Like,
yep, that's exactly what we have to do.
Which I think is fully okay. Like, I don't think anyone's ever, if you're ever in an interview where someone's like, can you write regex from scratch? Just run away. Like, it's fine. It's absolutely something that can be like available at all times. And maybe Lila has a different opinion from me on that, but I don't know.
I won't use regex unless I absolutely have to. Just I've had too many bad experiences over time.
Yep.
A lot of people feel the opposite of me. They're like, you're weird for never touching regex, but like,
not weird.
There's plenty of jokes, like, oh, I got 99 problems, then I used regex and now I have 101 problems, or whatever the joke was. Anyway, happens a lot. But yeah, so it is useful. It's nice and concise. It does things. Usually you can find ways to use libraries or other functions and stuff to kind of combine and get out of the way. And in my mind, that makes it more readable.
Absolutely.
If it's maybe less efficient, but you also have to remember that like regex isn't itself code. It is instructions for the code to parse through a string. And so like it can be just as inefficient as anything else, depending on what you're doing. I could talk for a little while about that. It's probably best that I don't.
We all have very strong opinions on regex. It's nice when it's that small. I have a couple of things where it's doing email validation in one regex and it's literally like 100 characters long. So yeah,
Google specifically published a email library and a phone library. Email is a little bit more common, but Google recently just parsed to say a phone library for the same reasons, because it's a common thing that people try and do, right? I need to match an email, or I need to match like a phone number, and it gets weird really quickly if you're not, careful about what you're doing. So like usually somebody else, same thing with like dates and time and that kind of stuff. Somebody else has thought about this a lot and spent a lot of time to make a library that works and handles all the things that you're gonna forget because you're gonna miss stuff. Usually it's my opinion then to go and find out what that is and use theirs instead. For what we're doing, it's probably not a big deal. Are we cool with switching over to the pair programming module now?
And I wanted to let everyone know, I posted in the chat if you are interested in regex. Regex101.com is a really cool tool where you can kind of like put in your regex string and you can test it and see if it's doing what you think it's doing.
This is awesome. Sorry.
So, because I have to use regex at work and I hate it. So
I'm going to totally use this week. Thank you.
And to switch over to, why did we change the sharing button on Zoom? Okay. Can you see a Chrome window with pair programming and start? Great. So this is a relatively short module. And, the nice thing is that y'all have basically been doing some pair programming so far. But we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth because it is a very industry-wide thing and nobody does it the same way. So there's no real consensus out there as to sort of what pair programming is or how you should do it. But at the same time, everyone does it, and you will, continue to not only use it, but also develop your favorite ways and tools and tricks to do it kind of throughout your career. I will say that, I'm as guilty as anyone else of like trying to avoid doing pair programming for a couple of reasons, like those little voices in your head that says like, oh, you don't want to watch people, or you don't want to have people watch you kind of messing around, right? Or you're trying to think through problems. You don't want to look dumb. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. You don't want to like have people, give you weird looks while you're trying something crazy. You know what I mean? But I think those are usually those little voices that are not always honest in your brain about, the way things that usually goes. The other one that strikes me a lot is like, I don't have time for that. And the thing is that when you usually have two brains plugged in and help solving a problem, it actually tends to work through it a lot faster than you kind of sitting in the corner and doing it by yourself. I just say that because I think those are common things that like sort of are ways to talk yourself out of saying, hey, you want to pair up and let's work on this problem together, and we can kind of work through it and get it solved. Pair programming, super important, super common, super good habit to get into. Let's go to next slide. So what is it really? Pair programming is two developers sit together in front of a computer and take turns writing code using just one keyboard. There's sort of conceptually, right? Usually you have someone who is the driver. They control the keyboard and they are responsible for writing the code. So, they're at the wheel and they're, the person will try to verbalize what they're thinking as much as they're possible while they're, working through and doing their code. And they're thinking about things at the low level. And then you have the navigator, pays close attention to the code while the driver is writing, offering guidance, suggestions, alternatives, and finding answers to the upcoming questions and challenges, and acting as a sounding board for the ideas the driver is coming up with, thanks with the bird's eye view of the code. The way I like to think about this is if you've ever, done a road trip in a car going to like a new city, or maybe you're going to go on like a scenic drive through some nature and stuff. You've usually got one person behind the wheel, and you might have someone sitting in the passenger seat. And, our smartphones have done a good job of becoming that navigator person, but even back before that, but still now today, right? It's nice to have someone who's not the person behind the wheel focused directly on the road in front of them, but who is checking the map, who is looking around, who is, giving context to where things are, but is also able to kind of like talk to you, keep you relaxed, keep you, sane, and help you, kind of think and offload a lot of that stuff onto another human being. And it honestly is a lot more fun to have someone, kind of sitting there with you while you go through and do that kind of thing. Pairing remotely. So typically, in an in-person office desk environment, right? Usually what would happen is someone would pull up a chair and they'll sit at your desk, or you're going to be at someone else's desk, and you'll the driver will be there running their keyboard. There's alternatives to that. Some people bring their laptop over and kind of work while you're working. You can actually hook up monitors and have people run their monitor next to your monitor and do all kinds of other stuff. But especially in these trying times, right? But with a push to more remote and distributed workforces, pairing remotely has become increasingly more important. There are a ton of tools out there that makes remote pairing even more collaborative, but you don't need them. I mean, honestly, doing what we're doing right now, where we have like a shared screen and just kind of walking through, is the one of the easiest ways with the lowest overhead to kind of get that set up and running, and yields a lot of pretty good results. So you can hop on a video call. You're sharing the screen. The navigator is there, to act as you're offloading the processing on your brain, asking questions. Hey, did you think of this? Hey, playing that passenger seat, watch out, there's a deer coming across the road type of stuff, as you're working through the code. And also, being a little inquisitive. Hey, what are you doing here? Why is that, the way it is? And that kind of stuff. The other thing you can do then while you're doing that is, especially if you're using, Git in more of like a frequent commit kind of way, you can push code up to the remote and then have the other person pull it down and pick it up and run it, kind of while they're doing it. I will say in this particular spot, so we're looking at the bottom right-hand corner, but a lot of tools have come out in the last couple of years. I think VS Code was the first to pioneer. They have their I can't remember what it's called, not their live edit, but their share tool, that lets you both kind of share the same session. You actually can both type in the same window and edit the code together. So it's not necessarily a need to have one person editing and the other person not able to touch the code and having to pull it and fetch it remote. There's better things that do that. JetBrains has got an equivalent for that now, and you'll see that type of tool has started to propagate in a bunch of other places now. So I know that there are online web versions of that, for some of those code editors and things. There's a lot of like the Stack Share is sharing tools, or there's a bunch of online editors now that both kind of support that type of flow. So you both can edit at the same time if you want to, but easiest way still is just to have one person pushing code, the other one pulls it down and checks it out and sees. One of the other good habits you might get into while doing a pair programming session is to switch back and forth. So I'm going to do some work. I have the navigator watch and watch me do it. Then we're going to pause. We're going to switch. So we're going to do the same thing you might do in a car, right? Switch, have the other person get behind the wheel and start doing the same kind of thing. And that's a good way to not only, keep things balanced between that dynamic, but also, let different people's ways of thinking kind of do their different jobs when working through a problem. You don't want to necessarily do that with every line or every commit or something, right? You'll find a balance when doing it. But it's a good thing to get in the habit of doing, especially because coding while someone is watching over your shoulder, it takes a little bit of extra mental energy. It's a little bit more taxing, and you want to kind of share that load while you're doing it. There's different variations on that too. You'll see I've interviewed with companies where their thing is mob programming, so they will, and that's all that they would do, where they would have 4 developers and they'd have like their code up on like a big screen and pass around the keyboard so that one person gets keyboard and then everybody's doing that. That's a little bit extreme for my taste, but it is a thing that's out there and that people do. So it's good to be aware of that kind of technique. And, some people swear by that. They say there's real benefits to having the whole team working on the code at the same time. There's no concept of ego there. There's no concept of like, fear of watching people watch me do stuff. It does some interesting things psychologically with the group dynamic. And that being said, a lot of the pair programming is just keeping that mindset and that attitude good. It's an exercise in sharing your Lego. I had to look up this phrase again when I saw this in the slides, but it's you have your box of Legos and you don't want to share, but as soon as you let someone else come in and share the Legos with you, and then you can kind of build stuff together, and it becomes this fun, more collaborative activity, and it takes away a lot of that like mine, stuff that you can get into when working through it. And also a lot of that like hurt feelings and stuff when like someone comes along and says like, hey, you have a bug. Oh, that kind of stuff doesn't happen as much when you paired it together, right? It's not about teaching or mentorship when you're doing a pair programming session. So, you really don't want it to be in like a, let me show you how to do this, let me teach you things, or on the other side of that, let me like poke and nitpick, as you're walking through your code, right? You don't want to be sitting there going like, you forgot to use your turn signal, like you're driving too fast. You know what I mean? Like that's a good way to drive people crazy. Also the same thing is like, let me show you how easy it is to change lanes and how good I am at driving. You know what I mean? Like it's obnoxious really fast. It's an opportunity to learn, right? Two brains working together, you'll both get better in the process by working that and learning from each other. Drivers, seek agreement before proceeding. Don't take people where you didn't tell them you're going to go when you're driving. It's generally a bad idea, right? And navigators ask, don't tell, the same thing, right? You don't want to be a bossy backseat driver, right? You want to be, this is a collaborative activity, and that's kind of the point. So I do want to keep things on the interest of time. But real quick, does anything that we said kind of align with your experience peer programming so far? Does anyone have any real strong thoughts about pair programming? I hate it, I love it, or I had like a really neat thing that happened.
Yeah, if we could quickly just go around. Why don't we start with Yolanda this time?
For me personally, I really like pair programming, just because I do learn a lot, and I tend to do better when I pair program with like a friend and we bounce off the ideas with each other, versus if I try to tackle a challenge by myself. I feel like it takes 10 times longer, because it's just, I can't get over certain humps. But if I do pair program with a friend and I get stuck, they always like, I don't know, it's like a rubber duck, I guess, and then they just kind of open the gates and I'm like, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way, or that's a good question. That's my personal experience and why I like it.
Thanks. Tatiana, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I never knew about live share in VS Code, and Danny introduced me to that this week, and that is just great. So we used that and I loved it. It's great. Thank you.
Does that work with anything? Like, do you have to plug something into that, or?
It seems that it's VS Code specific, and
okay.
I did have to like download a little extension, but it works very well, and like both people can be coding at the same time. Basically what Lyle was describing.
Cool.
I think they actually stole the concept from games, and like one, machine is a game server and the other one is like the
I mean, such a great idea. Yeah. Like, Danny, quick input from you.
Yeah, I've really liked it. I think in doing pairing, I've kind of recognized where my strengths and weaknesses are, or areas of opportunity. And luckily, like all of my pairs, I feel like we all complement each other well because we all have skill sets in different areas. So, like I have a good mind for like thinking through data structure and thinking about like the architecture of something. Whereas like Sam is really, really great with syntax and like really knows his stuff in React.
Yes.
And so I feel like we were able to kind of jive with each of my pairs and like get to solutions because we have kind of different ways of thinking through the code, which I've loved.
Great. Sam, you're up.
Yeah, I could echo everything that everyone says. Like, I agree with all of that. One thing that I thought about when it comes to pair programming, and for me, like, it's really easy to go off the deep end and then like find something that I want to implement or fix a bug here or there. And when I'm pair programming with any individual that was on this team, it always helped me like stay focused and stay in line and stay on course. Because I know when I'm doing it by myself, I get lost so easily. So I appreciate, just being there with someone, whether I'm driving or navigating, that, it just helps each other like stay focused. And work on the task at hand. So that's something that I really appreciate.
Awesome. Great.
So just last thing is there's a bunch of resources out there. I will share the slides in our chat here in just a second. I can't share while I'm sharing for some reason, but I'll drop that in. There's a handful of links there. There's so many words out on the internet on pair programming too. So if you have, if you're curious and you want to deep dive, especially if you're looking for the more interesting aspects like mob programming or some of the more extreme things, it's a fun topic to research and rabbit hole on a little bit. But I mean, you'll get the basics. It's working together. All right. I am going to stop sharing now and we'll do issues.
Okay. So I think I can start this and let's see how fast we get. Okay.
And I can take over if we need to, but I'm good.
Oh yeah. Sharing. Come on. There you go. All right. So you guys can see the window with the issues, right? The Google window. Okay, great. So it looks like, I've already clicked on something here. Hold on, I need to move this. Lyle, you were on for code reviews. Are these reviewed? Or I guess we can just leave them up if you want to.
They got stuff in this morning. I actually thought I saw some closed notifications come through, but maybe they didn't get all the way into Git. I'll check this on later. We'll move those. No worries. Don't worry about those.
Okay, so we have our teams this week are back to Danny and Sam and Tatiana and Yolanda. So that's exciting. We have 2 stories here. So the first one, as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty to help me get oriented to how the app works. And some acceptance criteria here. If there's no items to display, should show a prompt, like a button or whatever. Here's the wireframe. I'm pretty sure it's just kind of this default view. And let's go back. So before we choose, let's see what number 8 is. As a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased so the app can learn how often I buy different items. Ooh, this is exciting. Okay, so user is able to tap a check mark, checkbox or similar. Item should be shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. Okay, making assumptions that they won't need to buy it again. One challenge your pair may work through is figuring out how you will test this. You could probably think about test-driven development, maybe write the tests first or get a general idea first before you start the programming. That will really help, drive what it's going to look like and react with. Yeah, create a few sample items in the Firestore console and manipulate the dates. Interesting. So you can kind of play around with the dates and that'll help your tests probably too. So wireframes for this one. And ARIA labels, that's also related to accessibility, which we'll talk about later, but you guys can look into that. It'll probably come up while you're working on it. All right, do we have any questions for what we've got so far for these 2? And I feel like the last time we did these group pairings, Danny and Sam, you had first choice last time. So I'm going to give first choice to Yolanda and Tatiana. Would you like to work on number 6 or sorry, number 7 or number 8? Do you have a vote?
I don't have a strong preference.
I don't either, I don't know if you guys could hear me.
Yeah. I can. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So I'm not quite sure whichever.
Danny or Sam, do you guys have a strong preference either way?
I personally, I mean, and Danny, if you're down with this, I was really thinking about doing the number 8 because of the test-driven development.
I'm really
interested. Way. Yeah, I was interested in trying to implement some tests if you're down.
That sounds exciting. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go here and then Assignees, we've got and what's your, is it error? Aha.
Yeah,
Getting it.
sorry.
No worries.
I want to change it, but they said that all of my projects are going to be reassigned and it might mess up something. So I'm going to have to look into it.
Well, I wonder if you can just change the display name separate from the username. So it'll be, so it'll make it just easier to search. Because then someone can just search for your name and then it won't matter as much.
I changed my GitHub name not that long ago. I can talk you through it if you're curious. If you want to. You don't have to.
I'll DM you with that. Thanks.
Okay, so is it transfer issue? Like if I want to put this in progress from here, do you know, Lyle?
I just drag it on the board. I never touch that.
Okay, so that was number 8. And it's got your faces on it. So, and oops. Excellent. And we're in progress. Oh, look at that. It is 1:59. Bam. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
We have a family event next Saturday, and I wouldn't be able to make this time next Saturday.
Okay.
So I don't know what's best. I'm happy to like record our walkthrough and post it online and like share a link or whatever. I can talk through that with Yolanda to see what she's okay with.
Do you have like a Sunday better, or should we, or earlier or something, or we could get it done earlier in the day?
If we can be done before 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
It's just Saturday afternoon or later in the afternoon that I'm not available.
Does roughly that time work for everybody else?
Unfortunately, that's so funny that Tatiana brought that up. I'm actually gonna be on vacation this weekend, and I honestly won't be available from Saturday. What is it? Yeah, Saturday till Thursday till Sunday. Unfortunately, I'll be on my computer and stuff like that, and I'll see if I can definitely fit it in. But I'm gonna be out of town for that. I'm so sorry about that.
I mean, it happens. It's fine. You know, we can just work around it. Like, are either of you available on Sunday? Like, do we want to just try to just skip it?
I can do Sunday. That's
fine. Sunday, I will be back in town, like in the evening.
Okay.
But if you guys can't do that, then I'm, obviously.
I mean, if we could do it like just Sunday, your time evening is afternoon for the, West Coast. So, I mean, we could do it like 8 or 9 Eastern, whatever is
8.
like a good.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely do 8 o'clock on Sunday if that's open for you guys. Sorry about that.
So Yolanda, that would be like 5 p.m.
Yeah. I think that's 5 p.m. my time. I should be okay. My son might, get burst into this room and interrupt. So I'll try and minimize that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it happens. Life happens, so I get it. So maybe we can, Lyle, does that seem like that might work for you?
So that would be
so Sunday at 5.
5, is that 5 Pacific?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that works fine for me.
Okay. We'll just move the meeting over and then we can all get it and then we'll all be in the same room. Because next week is a retros week anyway. So we want, I'd like to get as many people as we can,
Okay, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Do that. Keep it up in Slack. If for some reason we change our minds or that doesn't work out or you got something else comes up, just drop it in there and we'll adjust.
We got the whole week. We can figure it out. Also, I would love it if you guys find awesome resources this week. Plop them in the channel, plop them in our channel, Learning Together. Because I mean, I don't think you guys realize how much I'm learning. it's really cool to see this. I mean, so I'm not, because you get in your own patterns of like how I Google or whatever, but you're working on different stuff than I normally work on. So it's really cool. And I'd love to see it. Awesome. That's it. Done. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, April.
You
Yeah.
guys are doing
Thank you.
awesome as always. Keep it up. We'll talk to you in Slack this week. Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
all so much.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you, you guys.